We are live, in the words of Bruce Buffer. God, Bruce Buffer.
What a man.
He's awful. I can't stand him.
But
anyway, that's like the only issue that I have with the UFC is Bruce Buffer. He takes so goddamn long to introduce the fights. Shashi, Shasha. Everything sounds exactly the same.
He builds the climax, you know? You gotta build up the fight.
It's time! Brought to you by Toyo Tires. It's like, we know that they got shitty sponsors. You don't need to re-remind us.
Well, Metro PCS is a great, great phone company to be.
Those commercials are so bad. All right, I'm joined by Eric Ellis, my good buddy, as we are live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This is the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, brought to you by yours truly, Ryan Thomas, the host. I'm joined by Eric Ellis. We have recapped and not recapped. We have previewed Wonderboy versus Masvidal, Joanna versus Rose. We did not feel the need to talk about the dad bod that is Johnny Hendricks. We will kind of touch on him a little bit later when we talk about GSP. And GSP and Bisping. But I want to preview the next fight, the co-main event, the fight that has everyone excited, the fight that I can't wait for this fight. The tension is so thick in the air. Anytime you see Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw in the same room, I love this rivalry.
The fireworks go.
The rivalry is the best, one of the best rivalries. It's the most real rivalry, I think, in MMA history. I really believe that.
I think it's the best one. I definitely think this year for sure.
Yeah.
It's had so much build-up. You know, even starting from last year, going into this year, it's been nutty and crazy. And even 2015, if you want to go back there, when it all really started, back to when, not that he changed camps, TJ Dillashaw, because he went to Altitude, was it?
Team Altitude, yeah. Team
Alpha Male was the
Team Alpha Male, Team Elevation Fight Team. That's what it was called. Yeah.
So for
something
everyone
stupid.
For everyone who's listening and they don't realize what the rivalry is.
Yeah.
TJ Dillashaw was part of Team Alpha Male, which was coached by Uriah Faber.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Garbrandt was also and still is a part of Team Alpha Male. TJ Dillashaw was asked by the coach of Altitude, Elevation Fight Club, whatever you want to call it, to come and train with them. Little did they know that he was changing camps. Mm-hmm. Cody obviously is a very loyal individual, and he takes this very personally and thought that this was a dig not only at Team Alpha Male, but at Uriah Faber and himself. Mm-hmm. And he's taken this to a whole other extreme level, which has really progressed into the Ultimate Fighter, which that season we didn't get to see the end fight, which is kind of disappointing because it was meant to be UFC 214.
July 8th, 214, no, 213.
And what's 213?
Yeah, 213.
Okay. Yeah. It's what made the pay-per-view better. But thankfully we get it.
That fight lost. That's not to interrupt you, but UFC 213 that lost two fights. Two title fights. That lost Nunes and Shevchenko and Garbrandt and Dillashaw.
All right,
which was awful. It's just... And, I mean, this rivalry, the one part of it that kind of gets not mentioned on TV or just in articles and MMA outlets is that Dwayne Ludwig is just as much part of this rivalry as anyone. Uriah Faber, being the head honcho at Team Alpha Male, the guy that created the team that consists of Faber and Mendez and Joseph Benavidez and Garbrandt and Dillashaw at one point, basically stated that he needed a striking coach. He brings in Dwayne Ludwig, who owns the quickest knockout in UFC history, a 4-second knockout, and he was successful with their team. They were doing successful things, but he kind of had a good relationship with TJ Dillashaw. He saw him as his pupil. They had a good rapport together. And TJ Dillashaw knew that Dwayne Ludwig needed to go back home to, I think it was Boulder, Colorado, or Denver, Colorado, one of the two, and move back home with his family. He missed his family. And he starts his own team. I think it's Team Bang or something like that. His Bang Fight Gym or something like that. It basically has snowballed from there. Everything, that one decision by TJ Dillashaw, which I can't really fault him for it, because the best fighters in the world, whether it's GSP or Anderson Silva or John Jones or just throughout history, have trained in other gyms. Like, there's no law that says I got to train at one gym and one gym only. It's more about, I personally think, it's more about what Uriah Faber did for T.J. Dillashaw's career, because he got T.J. Dillashaw the title shot versus Renan Barão.
He essentially got him everything.
Yeah.
He recruited him out of high school.
He gave him everything.
Got him, it's been huge. And, a lot of people think, well, how can you do that to somebody who literally gave you everything you are?
Yeah.
Essentially. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is the act that, T.J. Dillashaw was essentially spitting in Uriah Faber's face, saying that, I don't really care about this anymore. Thanks for a little bit, and then I'm just going to go and do my own thing.
Yeah, it's two. I see both sides, really. I see both sides where, like, he would think he was betrayed by Dillashaw, but I also see the other side of it where T.J. Dillashaw was winning those fights. You know what I mean? Like, Uriah Faber was in the octagon with him.
No.
That's kind of, and I get that part of it. I get it on Dillashaw's part. He had a good rapport with a good coach, and he kind of wanted to see what that would bring. Being that they'd won a title together, obviously he thought that it would continue, and unfortunately it did not. T.J. Dillashaw lost the title to Dominic Cruz. Then Cody Garbrandt gets the title shot. Cody Garbrandt's not even in the top 5 of the division, I don't think, at that time. And Garbrandt gets the title shot and destroys Dominic Cruz.
I think he was ranked 5.
Was he ranked 5th?
I think he was.
Yeah, well, in the top 5, I should say.
Yeah.
Wasn't the number 1 contender, really. He kind of talked his way into the title shot. He's got a lot of moxie, a lot of star appeal. Not to sound weird, but he's a decent-looking dude.
It helps that you train out Team Alpha Male, too, because Cruz has a big rivalry with everybody from Team Alpha Male. I mean, T.J. Dillashaw was still, technically a part of Team Alpha Male during that time period, for what it's considered, when Dominic Cruz got his title back. And he had the rivalry with Uriah Faber. So, I mean, it's been a lot of promoting as well. That's most of the reason why Cody Garbrandt got the title shot.
It's crazy, too, and Uriah Faber manages these fighters, so he does have incentive in doing it, but Uriah Faber literally got T.J. Dillashaw, literally lost, when he lost to Renan Barão. He's standing in the octagon, his face is all messed up. He says, T.J. Dillashaw, I think, would be a good challenger for Renan Barão. He fights Renan Barão, destroys him, fights Joe Soto. Barão missed weight, fights Joe Soto. He beats Joe Soto because it was on a day's notice. But props to Joe Soto for taking the fight. Dillashaw then beats Barão again and is the champion, and then he leaves Team Alpha Male, which that was kind of like, that was when it really hit the fan. But then when Dominic Cruz beat T.J. Dillashaw, Faber got another title shot and lost to Dominic Cruz for the second time in 3 fights, and then stands in the octagon and gives Cody Garbrandt some shine and says Cody Garbrandt would be the guy to beat Dominic Cruz. He was right both times.
It was.
It's crazy that he couldn't win a UFC title, being that he was a great fighter. One of the best fighters of all time, to be quite honest. And couldn't get the title in the UFC, but he promotes his fighters at the time, Dillashaw at the time was, and Garbrandt at the time and currently is, and they win the belt. It is so, that is the one dynamic of the story that really is crazy. But moving on, this fight is pure fire. This fight is going to be fury, just ferociousness on both sides of the coin. Yes. I think Garbrandt is a fighter that uses his emotion to his benefit. I've never seen a guy with this much of a chip on his shoulder as a champion before, where he's just so pissed off, so hell-bent. Do you think T.J. Dillashaw is going into this fight with the right mindset? Should he be more emotional than Cody Garbrandt?
I don't think he should. I don't think so at all. I personally, T.J. Dillashaw should just try his best. I think he is to put this in the past. Just not let it get to him. I mean, after this fight with Cody Garbrandt, just not that it never happened, but just not reflect on it as much. You know, you made your decision. You left that camp, and now you're with Team Elevation. And you just gotta do what you gotta do at this point. Just keep fighting. If you win the belt, you win the belt. Just leave it in the past. If you don't, maybe do a super fight with Mighty Mouse, or maybe move up to featherweight if you really want to do something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I personally think, you want a title. I mean, a lot of fighters try to stick to their own division. It's respectable because you want to show that you're still the best in that weight class. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, there should be a point where you're like, you know what, I want to push myself more. I want to make that choice to make my own legacy and get out of the shadow of the division I was in.
Like usually, I mean, if really, we were talking about Wonderboy and Masvidal being a crossroads fight. This is a crossroads fight for TJ Dillashaw.
Yeah.
He really has to win tonight in order to not only gain the belt, but in order to have a new lease on life. If he loses to Garbrandt, his days of getting a title shot in the men's bantamweight division are pretty much over. I think if he were to lose to Garbrandt, he'd probably move down to flyweight and try and win a few fights there, and then fight DJ. That would probably be what's next. But I really feel like Garbrandt is going to win this fight. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Garbrandt is going to knock out TJ Dillashaw tonight.
Yeah, it could happen.
I think that if Dillashaw fights in and out and comes in at angles like he has in fights past, like he did against Cruz. He did have some success against Cruz. It was a close fight. I always say the 5-5. Like if you ask 10 people who won that fight, it was 6-4 one way, 6-4 the other way, 5-5 some of it. So it's very tough to say what TJ Dillashaw needs to do and do right, because this guy was a champion. He destroyed Renan Barão, who was undefeated for 10 years.
He did. It was a very bad.
Not once, but twice, and the second time was even worse. So it's crazy that we're talking about what Dillashaw needs to do to beat Garbrandt, but Garbrandt just put on one of the most impressive. He one-upped, in my opinion, TJ Dillashaw versus Barão when he fought Dominic Cruz. That we were sitting there at Buffalo Wild Wings, as we usually are. We won't be tonight. We're going to watch it at the house, but watching that fight, I didn't anticipate that. I didn't see that coming. I didn't think Cody Garbrandt would blow out Dominic Cruz. He blew him out. Yep. That fight wasn't even close. Dominic Cruz didn't do anything. Like his eyes were messed up. He was bleeding. He got dropped like 4 times. He really could have finished it had he not been pointing and laughing and doing the salsa dance and all the stuff he was doing.
It was just insane. I couldn't believe how silly he made Dominic Cruz look.
It was. I mean, do you think we'll see that Cody Garbrandt?
No, this is all emotion tonight. This is going to be Cody Garbrandt up front, all in TJ's face. And it's tough to say because I feel like Cody, when he gets in the octagon, when he gets in the ring, you see two sides of him. You see the serious side who is willing to put up with what he knows and put all his emotions to the wayside. But most of the time you see Cody as a person who literally just puts all of his emotion into everything he does. Yeah. He goes all out and crazy in the octagon. And this is one of those fights where I think it can be one or the other, and that's kind of obvious to say, but I think in this way he is going to go out and try to do his best to knock out TJ Dillashaw. And if I could predict it right now, I would give Cody Garbrandt a second-round knockout.
Second round, I think it could be the third. I'm willing to give, because Dillashaw the first round might start off a little slow. I'm going to say third, just because I think TJ Dillashaw is a smart fighter. I do think he's a smart fighter. It could be the second. It could go second or third. I wouldn't disagree. I'm just going to give Dillashaw a little bit more credit. But Cody Garbrandt, this dude, this fight, if he knocks out TJ Dillashaw, whether it be in the second like you're saying or the third like I'm saying, this dude has real potential to be a superstar. I think he already is. I think he should be heavily promoted more than what he already has been. This guy destroyed a dude that hadn't lost in 10 years. He hadn't lost since they fought in a blue octagon. Mm-hmm. I'm just so enamored with this dude. I really like his attitude. I like the way he approaches fights. He's becoming one of my favorite fighters. I'm going Garbrandt. Eric's going Garbrandt. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, UFC 217 pre-fight preview and prediction. Garbrandt versus Dillashaw. Tune in. We're about to preview and predict the main event, Michael Bisping versus GSP.